Hi everybody, welcome to this video. Throughout Acacia Kersey's career, she's been in countless controversies, and today we are going to talk about one that happened back in 2017, but the ridiculousness of the situation is truly timeless. The thread this video is based on and other sources are linked below if you want to check them out yourself. Before we start, I have to mention that during this phase of her life, Acacia was following and friends with another mommy influencer, Amber Fillerup, and people were pointing out that there are similarities between their content and life that seem too intentional to be accidental. These screenshots are from an Instagram account that is now inactive, and they're pointing out the similarities between the two, like similar poses and locations for photos, or Acacia naming her second daughter Rosie, just like Amber's. Their babies are wearing similar clothes, and Acacia and Amber both have the same hairstyle, posing in the same way with a similar background. At the bottom, there is a comparison of Amber and Acacia's photos at an Airbnb they both stayed at in 2017, which is what this video is about. Amber made a blog post about her stay at an Airbnb, which inspired Acacia to visit the same place just a couple of months later. Acacia made a Twitter post about enjoying her stay, accompanied by posed aesthetic photos. But it seems like Acacia didn't enjoy her stay as much as she was trying to make people believe she did, because she left a review of the Airbnb detailing her stay there. She said, "People with guns walked right by the Airstream. We had our 4 months old with us. Ants, ants, ants. It's disgusting. It rained and there was a lot of leaks, even a leak above the bed. We told the owners about our experience before leaving this review, and they didn't want or care to help us at all. Also, it's very dangerous to get up and down." Fortunately, the owner of the Airbnb defended her business. She made a lengthy reply to Acacia and said, "After hosting hundreds of guests with endless 5-star reviews, and more important, sharing and creating amazing experiences for our guests, we finally hosted and were reviewed by the most negative and overly dramatic people we do not wish upon any other host. Being located amidst thousands of acres of pristine land, we share this location with the local fauna. If you leave food out, ants will eventually come. If you don't leave food out, ants will stay busy being ants somewhere else. One might also see crickets, ladybugs, mosquitoes, bees, snakes, mice, foxes, owls, coyotes, bobcats, the elusive P-37 mountain lion, deer, hawks, pods of dolphins, and even whales from our deck. We're sorry these guests really don't like ants. Again, our location is surrounded by the Santa Monica Mountain State Park. Therefore, what they really meant to say or leave out is that people with guns meant two wonderful and friendly state park rangers who walked past the Airstream once and introducing themselves to anyone who didn't lock themselves in the car. That afternoon, after the most incredible lightning storm over the ocean with lightning bolts striking the horizon every other second, it lasted for over 6 hours, during which there was a passing shower for about 5 minutes. We have a tiny leak in the kitchen roof, which the guests apparently swear it has magically moved to over the bed, despite the bed being completely dry that morning. As hosts, we see hundreds of guests, and this listing can be especially tricky as it's always a bit of an adventure. It's remote, completely off the grid, can be difficult to find if one does not read the directions. No cell reception, limited electricity, weather influenced, a long dirt road, but once you arrive there, the rewards trump these limited challenges. It's an experience which is very hard to find, especially only 1 hour away from LA. It's pure, undisturbed, it's just you, your partner, and infinite views with no trace of mankind. It forces you to look inwards and meditate. People reconnect to each other without the distractions of Wi-Fi and cell phones. People spontaneously get engaged. People conceive children there. You feel minuscule below the million stars above and this massive panoramic presence of the universe floating above. It's sort of a restart button for the soul. It's hard to describe, and it can be different for each guest, as some reviewers hit the nail on the head, and then others very, very occasionally complain about the lack of Wi-Fi or seeing ants. Regardless of this, we still refunded Acacia a few $100s, so it would cover her hotel costs, despite the refund not being warranted at all. Alas, we only wish such a special night could have gone to anyone else, as it was the most magical night we'd seen there in years. Signed, the owner. This response paints a totally different picture than Acacia's review and exposes how entitled and shallow Acacia really is. When Opinion Twitter found out about this, they started talking about how Acacia is trying to damage someone's business and reputation, and she addressed this in a Notes app rant, where she said, basically, what happened is we drove all the way up to Airstream in Malibu in the middle of nowhere with absolutely no service. The first couple hours were perfect. We were alone and having a good time. Then, out of nowhere, these two men wearing absolutely regular clothing, no park uniforms, no badges, start walking by about 50 feet away from us. They both had rifles in hand. We were never told there would be people coming by, or that they'd be around throughout the day, so we were quite honestly terrified. Jairus grabbed Brinley and we ran to our car. We got inside and started driving down the hill. This was Jairus's chance to show himself, but unfortunately, this property wasn't his to defend. Acacia continues, we then later found out that they were hired to hunt two deers for the Parks and Rec department, so these men were hunting less than a mile away from where we were staying at, and several different caliber guns can shoot over that range, so we were still extremely uncomfortable with the situation. Then a rainstorm came and there were leaks on the bed, and several more leaks throughout the airstream. After all of that, we decided it just wasn't worth as much money as we had paid. Acacia received comments on this, pointing out they were park rangers, and Acacia said, sorry they had no park ranger uniforms on, just regular clothing and assault rifles. My bad for getting scared? I understand being afraid of guns with all the violence going on in the USA. Being young parents, it made sense for Acacia and Jairus to be in high alert and more sensitive to their surroundings. But they were right next to a state park, and it's clearly stated that there are wild animals around. That would mean that there will be rangers around too. As a bear, I know to stay away from areas populated with humans and even parks so I don't encounter them. Rangers' clothing are usually plain, so I understand thinking they're random people, and I don't really know how far they were from them, but I assume they were too far to see any badges or identification, so being scared in the moment makes sense. But still, they found out later that these were rangers, so why mention it at all? In the review, Acacia described the situation as life-threatening to their newborn, while the website clearly states that the Airbnb is not suitable for infants under 2 years old. She can't blame anyone else but herself for having her 4 months old with her, a choice she made, and chooses to shift the blame when she realizes how dangerous it is to bring a newborn on a glamping experience in the wilderness. A reply tweet to Acacia says, it said the Airbnb wasn't suitable for children under the age of 2, and you brought Brinley anyways. You needed to copy Amber that much. Acacia replied, I asked the owner and she said it'd be fine, but whatevs. Acacia still believed that the situation was life-threatening to their family, and defending her stance even after clarifying with the owners that these are park rangers, and knowing that her and Jairus overreacted. She received permission to bring a 4 months old because the owners knew the location was safe enough as long as the parents keep their baby close to them and keep them safe from animal encounters and normal dangers like falling, etc. This situation is just another example of Acacia's true personality showing and her getting mad when people saw through her facade of perfection. She clearly brought up all her issues to the owner before she left and received partial refund. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't blame people wanting to get their money's worth, but why write such a negative review afterwards? Acacia could have said that her stay wasn't up to her standards and that the owner worked with them to accommodate that and solve any issues that the Kerseys had during their stay, even giving them a partial refund that was not warranted. But that wasn't enough in Acacia's mind, and it's not surprising she threw a fit when she couldn't get what she wanted, since she's never had a job involving running a legitimate business, customer service, or conflict resolution. I think the owner of the Airbnb handled the situation in a very professional manner, considering Acacia's ridiculous review and defensive attitude over issues that were resolved in her favor. What are your thoughts on this situation? Thank you for watching and spending this time with me. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.